Get Cloud Curious. I'm Sean Bolin, an AWS Authorized Champion Instructor with New Horizons. Today I have a helpful tip for you regarding AWS Identity and Access Management with access keys and secret access keys. Let's get started. First of all, we are working with the Identity and Access Management System in AWS. If you don't know IAM is the system we use to create user accounts, group accounts, and control access to resources, aka permissions, using things like policies and roles. Normally, when we create a user account, or we think about creating a user account, we would give that user a username and a password. They need that to sign into the AWS console. However, depending upon how my user or my administrator is going to be using the system, they might need a different type of credentials. That is an access key and a secret access key. Now, why would they need that? They would need that type of credential if they're going to be doing work from the AWS command line tools, maybe PowerShell, or even the software development kits or cloud development kits. Here you see I'm creating a user. I'm just naming them test user. I've clicked the checkbox to enable console access. That means I'm going to give them a username and password, and they're going to be able to sign into the AWS console. You'll notice way down at the bottom it says for programmatic access. That's our command line access, software development kit, cloud development kit. I can generate access keys after we create the user, and that's what we're going to do in this case. Now, I'm completing the creation of my user, and since I gave them a username and password, I'd be able to retrieve that, email it to the user so they can sign into the console, etc. Once I'm done creating that user, I'm going to click the big orange button there that says Return to User List. Now, I've returned to my list of users. I've clicked on my test user. Way up at the top of the screen, I have clicked on the Security Credentials tab. And you'll notice way down at the bottom, it says Access Keys, 0. They don't have an access key and secret access key combo yet. But if I'm going to give them access to things like the command line, PowerShell tools, etc., we need to create one. So I'm going to click Create Access Key down there at the bottom of the page. Now, when I do that, and this is a brand new screen in AWS, it just came up. It's asking me, okay, what exactly is your scenario? What are you creating this access key and secret access key for? Notice we have for local code or command line, etc. Now, what this screen is trying to convey to you is that there might be better ways or more preferential ways to give your user access to that kind of material depending upon your scenario. So notice when I click local code here, down at the bottom it says, hey, we've got another recommendation for you. This might be a better way to do that. If I were granting command line access, again, I look down at the bottom and it has a suggestion. Well, you might think about doing it this way. AWS is trying to help us. They're trying to say, let's do this in the best possible way. Now, if my scenario is I really want my user to have an access key and a secret access key, I'm going to click the little checkbox down at the bottom that says, I understand the recommendation, but this really is what I need to do. When I do that, I'm going to give my access key and secret access key a name so we can identify it for this user. I'll click the Create button up at the top there, and then the next screen pops up and says, great, you've created your access key and your secret access key for this particular user. Now, I've put a couple arrows down to some points at the bottom. AWS is giving us some very important reminders or pointers regarding these access key and secret access key. These are essentially a set of credentials, much like a username and password. If my user would lose these, whoever got access to them, whoever found them, if they knew what they were, would be able to use them to potentially access my account. I don't want that. So we want to protect these very, very tightly. Additionally, if they're no longer needed, like my user needed this for a temporary project and now the project's done, I want to either disable these or delete these because I don't want to leave live credentials laying around that are not needed. Here, I'm showing you the screen where, okay, my user's done with these credentials, they did their job, the project's over and things like that. Now I'm going to follow AWS's best practice. I've gone in and deactivated the key maybe I want to use it later. So I'm just going to deactivate it. Maybe I'll turn it on later. Or I can go out and completely delete the key. We don't need it anymore. I want to get rid of it. Don't want it to fall into the wrong hands, etc. So I could go out and delete that. Now, to summarize, IAM, Identity and Access Management, is the system we use to grant access to resources. So I'm going to create my users, manage my users, my groups, etc. We now know that access keys and secret access keys are one type of credential that my users would need for getting access to command line tools, PowerShell, SDKs, CDKs, etc. You now know what they are and how to use them in the best manner possible. That's it for today's tip. I encourage you to continue to get cloud curious. Reach out to your New Horizons account executive or visit newhorizons.com to learn more about our AWS authorized training.